For more than 6 centuries, Carthage stood among the greatest powers of the ancient Mediterranean. It commanded vast trade networks, built one of the world's most formidable navies, amassed extraordinary wealth, and produced one of history's greatest military commanders. At its height, merchants sailing its harbors connected 3 continents, while its influence stretched from the Atlantic Ocean to the shores of Sicily. Yet, despite its remarkable achievements, much of what we know about Carthage comes from the civilization that ultimately destroyed it. Its own libraries were lost, its monuments were reduced to ruins, and its story was largely written by its greatest enemy, Rome. Hidden beneath centuries of legend, propaganda, and archaeology lies the remarkable history of a civilization that transformed the Mediterranean and helped shape the future of the Western world. Long before Carthage existed, the Mediterranean was already the ancient world's greatest highway. Across its waters, merchants exchanged goods, ideas, technologies, and cultures between Europe, Africa, and the Near East. Among its finest sailors were the Phoenicians, master mariners from the cities of Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos along the eastern Mediterranean coast in what is now Lebanon. Rather than conquering vast inland empires, they built prosperity through commerce. Their ships carried cedar timber, purple dye, glass, fine metalwork, and luxury goods across thousands of miles, establishing trading stations that connected distant civilizations through the sea. As trade expanded westward, the Phoenicians established colonies at carefully chosen coastal locations where ships could replenish supplies, shelter from storms, and exchange valuable cargo. Around 814 BC, according to ancient tradition, settlers from Tyre founded a new settlement on the Gulf of Tunis. They named it Kart Hadasht, New City. History would remember it simply as Carthage. Legend attributes its founding to Queen Dido, also known as Alyssa, a Tyrian princess who fled political intrigue before securing land from local rulers through clever negotiation. Whether entirely historical or partly mythical, her story reflected the qualities that would define Carthage itself: resilience, intelligence, diplomacy, and ambition. The location could hardly have been better. 2 naturally protected harbors opened onto the central Mediterranean, while fertile farmland stretched across the surrounding plains. Positioned between Europe and Africa, Carthage occupied one of the most strategic crossroads in the ancient world. Ships traveling east or west naturally passed nearby, allowing merchants to control commerce flowing between civilizations. Unlike many kingdoms that first expanded through conquest, Carthage grew rich because it mastered the sea. Its merchants established partnerships rather than occupations. Its sailors explored distant coastlines that few others dared to visit. Every successful voyage expanded commercial influence, strengthened diplomatic relationships, and increased the city's growing prosperity. Wealth accumulated not through tribute alone, but through trade, innovation, and maritime expertise. Over time, the sea became far more than Carthage's highway. It became its greatest source of wealth, its strongest line of defense, and the foundation upon which an extraordinary civilization would be built. As centuries passed, the balance of power in the eastern Mediterranean began to change. One after another, powerful empires conquered the Phoenician homeland. Assyrians, Babylonians, and eventually the Persians brought cities such as Tyre under foreign domination. As the influence of its mother city gradually declined, Carthage assumed leadership of the Western Phoenician world. No longer merely a distant colony, it became the political, commercial, and naval capital of a growing maritime network that stretched across North Africa, Sardinia, Corsica, Western Sicily, the Balearic Islands, southern Iberia, and numerous smaller ports scattered throughout the Mediterranean. The sea that had once connected Carthage to Phoenicia was now connecting an expanding commercial civilization centered on Carthage itself. Its prosperity rested upon one of the ancient world's most sophisticated trading economies. Every day, merchant ships crowded the city's harbors, carrying silver from the rich mines of Iberia, grain from North Africa, timber, pottery, olive oil, wine, ivory, textiles, and luxury goods from across 3 continents. Carthaginian navigators mastered seasonal winds and established dependable trade routes that generated immense wealth while building relationships with dozens of different cultures. Each successful voyage strengthened both the city's treasury and its growing influence. Commerce was only part of the story. The fertile countryside surrounding Carthage became one of the Mediterranean's agricultural treasures. Farmers cultivated grain, olives, grapes, figs, and livestock, using advanced irrigation methods and carefully managed estates that impressed even Rome centuries later. The agricultural writings of the Carthaginian scholar Mago became so respected that after Carthage's destruction, the Romans ordered his work translated rather than allowing its knowledge to disappear, an extraordinary tribute from a victorious enemy. Wealth generated something equally important: security. Carthage invested heavily in one of the largest and most advanced navies of the ancient world. Powerful warships protected merchant convoys, secured vital sea lanes, discouraged piracy, and projected Carthaginian influence across the western Mediterranean. At the heart of the city stood one of antiquity's greatest engineering achievements, the circular military harbor known today as the Cothon. Hundreds of warships could be constructed, repaired, supplied, and launched with remarkable efficiency. It was more than a harbor. It was the beating heart of Carthaginian naval power. Government also played a vital role in the city's remarkable stability. Unlike many neighboring kingdoms ruled by hereditary monarchs, Carthage developed a more balanced political system. Elected magistrates known as suffect shared authority with influential councils and powerful merchant families. Although far from a modern democracy, this structure distributed power among multiple institutions, encouraged long-term stability, and allowed commercial interests to shape national policy alongside military priorities. As Carthage's influence expanded, however, so did the number of rivals competing for control of the Mediterranean. Greek colonies throughout Sicily increasingly challenged Carthaginian interests, recognizing the island's enormous strategic and economic value. Throughout the 6th and 5th centuries BC, a series of hard-fought wars erupted between Greek and Carthaginian armies. Victories alternated with setbacks, yet one characteristic repeatedly distinguished Carthage from many of its rivals: it always recovered. Its merchants rebuilt the treasury, its shipyards produced new fleets, its allies supplied fresh soldiers, its commercial network generated the resources needed to recover from losses that might have destroyed lesser states. Time and again, Carthage emerged stronger than before. By the 4th century BC, it had become one of the richest and most influential civilizations anywhere in the Mediterranean. Its harbors echoed with shipbuilders' hammers and the voices of merchants speaking dozens of languages. Its warehouses overflowed with wealth from 3 continents. Its fleets ruled the Western Sea with unmatched confidence. Yet across the water, another republic was quietly growing in strength. On the Italian peninsula, Rome was expanding beyond its regional borders. Neither civilization yet understood that the Mediterranean was becoming too small for them both. Before long, 2 extraordinary powers, one built upon mastery of the sea, the other upon mastery of the land, would begin a struggle that would determine the future of the ancient world. By the 4th and 3rd centuries BC, Carthage had reached the height of its power. What had begun centuries earlier as a small Phoenician colony had grown into one of the wealthiest and most influential civilizations the Mediterranean had ever known. Unlike the great land empires of Egypt, Persia, or Assyria, Carthage ruled primarily through the sea. Its influence stretched from the Atlantic coast of modern Morocco to western Sicily, from the fertile plains of North Africa to thriving settlements in Sardinia, Corsica, the Balearic Islands, and southern Iberia. Rather than governing one continuous territory, Carthage controlled an interconnected network of ports, colonies, allies, and trading stations bound together by maritime commerce. The Mediterranean itself had become the empire's greatest highway. Every day, the city came alive before sunrise. Merchant ships crowded its harbors, carrying silver from the mines of Iberia, grain from North Africa, timber, livestock, wine, olive oil, spices, textiles, ivory, and luxury goods from across 3 continents. Sailors' orders from crowded docks, while merchants negotiated prices in dozens of different languages. Warehouses overflowed with cargo awaiting shipment to distant markets. Customs duties, commercial partnerships, and overseas investments generated immense wealth that financed public works, military expansion, and continued prosperity. Few cities anywhere in the ancient world could rival Carthage's economic power. At the center of that prosperity stood one of antiquity's greatest engineering achievements. The great circular military harbor, the Cothon, was unlike anything most rivals had ever seen. Hundreds of warships could be docked, repaired, supplied, and launched with extraordinary speed. Covered ship sheds protected vessels from wind and weather, while skilled craftsmen worked continuously to maintain the fleet. At the harbor's center stood a command island from which admirals could oversee operations across the entire complex. It was more than an impressive harbor. It was the operational heart of the most powerful navy in the Western Mediterranean. The sea made Carthage wealthy. The sea also made Carthage powerful. Generations of experienced sailors mastered changing winds, dangerous currents, and distant coastlines long before many competitors ventured far from home. Powerful quinqueremes protected merchant convoys, discouraged piracy, and projected Carthaginian influence across thousands of miles of open water. Wherever Carthaginian merchants established profitable trade, the navy ensured those commercial lifelines remained secure. Prosperity extended far beyond the waterfront. The fertile countryside surrounding the city became one of the Mediterranean's most productive agricultural regions. Farmers carefully cultivated grain, olives, grapes, figs, and fruit using sophisticated irrigation systems and advanced farming techniques. Agricultural innovation became so respected that centuries later, after Rome had destroyed Carthage itself, Roman leaders preserved the agricultural writings of Mago rather than allowing them to disappear. Even victory could not erase knowledge that proved too valuable to lose. Within the city, prosperity fueled remarkable growth. Magnificent temples overlooked busy marketplaces. Warehouses lined the docks beside workshops producing fine metalwork, ceramics, textiles, jewelry, and glass. Diplomats, sailors, merchants, craftsmen, and laborers from many different cultures lived and worked together in one of the busiest commercial centers of the ancient world. Carthage became a place where languages, customs, and ideas mixed as naturally as the goods flowing through its harbors. Its leaders also understood that influence did not always require conquest. Rather than attempting to occupy every neighboring territory directly, Carthage frequently relied upon diplomacy, commercial agreements, and strategic alliances. Friendly ports gained access to profitable trade. Local rulers benefited from Carthaginian markets and naval protection. Wealth often accomplished what prolonged military campaigns could not. Commerce became one of Carthage's most effective instruments of foreign policy. To those looking across the Mediterranean, Carthage appeared almost untouchable. Its treasury overflowed with wealth. Its fleets ruled the Western Sea. Its colonies enriched the homeland. Its political institutions had delivered generations of stability. The sea that had built Carthage now seemed to guarantee its future. But another civilization was rising whose greatest strength did not lie upon the water. It marched on land. The first signs of danger appeared not within Carthage's bustling harbors, but across the sea on the Italian peninsula. There, the Roman Republic was quietly transforming itself from a regional power into an expanding state built upon military discipline, political resilience, and an extraordinary ability to recover from defeat. For decades, Rome and Carthage had largely respected one another's spheres of influence through treaties and careful diplomacy. Yet as both civilizations expanded, the Mediterranean slowly became too small for them both. The greatest point of friction was Sicily, located between Italy and North Africa. The island controlled some of the Mediterranean's most valuable trade routes. Rich farmland, prosperous Greek cities, and strategic harbors made Sicily one of antiquity's greatest prizes. Greek colonies, Carthaginian territories, and ambitious local rulers competed constantly for influence, drawing both Rome and Carthage deeper into regional conflicts. What had once been manageable political disputes gradually evolved into direct strategic competition. For generations, Carthage had believed its greatest advantage was secure. No rival possessed centuries of maritime experience. No rival matched its fleet. Then Rome did something remarkable. Rather than accepting Carthaginian dominance at sea, the Romans studied their enemy, captured Carthaginian warships, copied their designs, and built an entirely new navy. They even developed innovative boarding bridges known as corvus, allowing Roman soldiers to transform naval battles into infantry engagements, where their discipline offered the greatest advantage. Almost overnight, Rome began challenging the civilization that had long ruled the sea. At the same time, Carthage faced quieter challenges from within. Much of its military relied upon professional soldiers recruited from North Africa, Iberia, Gaul, and other distant regions. These experienced warriors fought with exceptional skill, but their loyalty depended upon capable leadership, reliable payment, and continued military success. Maintaining such an army demanded enormous financial resources. Political disagreements among Carthage's leading merchant families further complicated long-term strategy. Commercial priorities sometimes competed with military objectives, making decisive action more difficult during prolonged conflicts. Rome possessed an important advantage of its own. Its armies consisted largely of citizen soldiers whose commitment extended beyond financial reward. Even after devastating defeats, Rome repeatedly raised new armies, strengthened old alliances, and continued fighting with astonishing determination. Defeat became a lesson rather than a surrender. Carthage had mastered the sea. Rome had mastered endurance. Neither civilization sought the complete destruction of the other. Yet every treaty became more fragile. Every dispute over Sicily grew more dangerous. Every expansion of influence increased the likelihood of war. Two extraordinary powers had reached the limits of peaceful coexistence. The collision, when it finally came, would become one of the longest and most consequential struggles of the ancient world. It would produce one of history's greatest military commanders. It would reshape the Mediterranean forever, and it would ultimately determine whether the future belonged to Carthage or to Rome. The struggle that followed became known as the Punic Wars. 3 conflicts fought over more than a century that transformed the Mediterranean forever. They began in 264 BC with a dispute over Sicily. But neither Rome nor Carthage could have imagined how completely those wars would reshape the ancient world. The First Punic War became the largest naval conflict history had yet seen. For more than 20 years, Rome and Carthage battled across the waters surrounding Sicily. Carthage entered the war with overwhelming advantages. Its sailors possessed generations of maritime experience. Its fleets dominated the Western Mediterranean, and few believed Rome could seriously challenge its command of the sea. Rome refused to accept those odds. Again and again, the Republic rebuilt fleets, destroyed by storms and battle. It learned from every defeat, improved its tactics, and gradually closed the gap with its rival. What Rome lacked in experience, it compensated for with determination and an almost unmatched capacity to recover. By 241 BC, Carthage was forced to accept defeat. For the first time in its history, the proud maritime republic surrendered to a rival. Sicily was lost. A crushing financial indemnity drained the treasury. The civilization that had built its greatness upon the sea had suffered its first truly devastating setback. The consequences proved immediate. Unable to pay many of its mercenary soldiers, Carthage descended into the brutal mercenary war between 241 and 237 BC. Former allies turned against the republic they had once defended, and the fighting came dangerously close to the city's own walls. Although Carthage ultimately crushed the rebellion, the conflict exposed a dangerous weakness within its military system. Rome quickly exploited the situation, seizing Sardinia and Corsica, while Carthage struggled to restore stability. Yet once again, Carthage recovered. Its merchants rebuilt the economy. New wealth flowed from the rich silver mines of Iberia. Under the leadership of the brilliant general Hannibal Barca, the Republic established a powerful new base in Spain that restored both its finances and military strength. After Hamilcar's death, leadership eventually passed to his son. His name would become one of the most famous in military history, Hannibal Barca. In 218 BC, Hannibal launched one of the boldest campaigns ever attempted, leading tens of thousands of soldiers, cavalry, and war elephants. He marched from Iberia across southern Gaul before attempting what many considered impossible, the crossing of the Alps into Italy. The journey itself became legendary, battling snow, ice, hostile tribes, and treacherous mountain passes. Hannibal lost thousands of men and many of his elephants, yet the army that emerged into northern Italy remained capable of confronting Rome on its own soil. What followed stunned the ancient world. At the Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and most famously at Cannae in 216 BC, Hannibal destroyed Roman armies with tactical brilliance that military academies still study today. At Cannae alone, tens of thousands of Roman soldiers were killed in one of history's greatest battlefield encirclements. Never before had Rome suffered such catastrophic defeat. For a moment, it seemed the Republic itself might collapse. But Rome possessed one advantage Hannibal could never destroy: its determination. Rather than seeking another decisive battle, Roman commanders adopted a strategy of patience and endurance. They rebuilt shattered armies, strengthened alliances, and slowly exhausted Hannibal through attrition, while avoiding the kind of confrontation he desired. Meanwhile, political divisions within Carthage and the immense logistical challenge of sustaining an army deep inside Italy prevented Hannibal from receiving the reinforcements needed to finish the war. The conflict's decisive moment came far from Italy. The Roman general Scipio, later known as Scipio Africanus, carried the war directly into North Africa. Forced to defend his homeland after more than 15 years campaigning abroad, Hannibal returned to Carthage for one final battle. At Zama in 202 BC, two of history's greatest commanders finally faced one another. Hannibal's brilliance met Rome's relentless resilience. By the end of the day, Rome had prevailed. The defeat ended the Second Punic War and shattered Carthage's position as a great military power. The Republic surrendered its overseas territories, relinquished nearly its entire fleet, paid another enormous indemnity, and accepted severe restrictions that left it unable to wage war without Roman permission. Yet Carthage did not disappear. Freed from constant warfare, its merchants once again rebuilt the economy with astonishing speed. Trade flourished, agriculture prospered, wealth returned. Ironically, Carthage's remarkable recovery alarmed Rome far more than its earlier military defeats. Among the Republic's loudest voices was Cato the Elder, who ended nearly every speech before the Roman Senate with the same warning: Carthage must be destroyed. In 149 BC, Rome launched the Third Punic War. Officially, the conflict began over regional disputes. In reality, many Roman leaders had already concluded that lasting security required eliminating their greatest rival forever. For 3 desperate years, Carthage resisted with extraordinary determination. Men and women forged weapons day and night. Slaves were freed to strengthen the defenses. Every available resource was devoted to the city's survival. But against Rome's overwhelming military strength, hope slowly faded. In 146 BC, Roman forces under Scipio Aemilianus finally breached the city's defenses, street by street, house by house, temple by temple. Nearly 6 centuries of history disappeared into smoke and fire. Tens of thousands perished. Many more were enslaved. One of the Mediterranean's greatest cities ceased to exist. Rome had won, but the Mediterranean and history itself would never be the same. Although Carthage was destroyed, its influence did not vanish. Rome eventually rebuilt a new city upon the same magnificent harbor, and under Roman rule, Carthage once again became one of North Africa's greatest urban centers. The location that had first attracted Phoenician merchants nearly 1,000 years earlier remained too valuable to abandon. Even in defeat, Carthage continued shaping the Mediterranean world. Its greatest achievements survived in unexpected ways. Roman farmers adopted agricultural knowledge, preserved in the writings of Mago, whose work was considered so valuable that the Roman Senate ordered it translated rather than destroyed. Carthaginian advances in farming, irrigation, and estate management continued influencing agriculture for generations. Its legacy reached far beyond the fields. Carthage demonstrated how maritime commerce could build extraordinary prosperity without relying solely on territorial conquest. Its merchant networks connected distant civilizations, encouraged cultural exchange, and transformed the Mediterranean into one of history's first truly interconnected economic systems. Its engineers designed ports whose sophistication impressed archaeologists even today. Its sailors explored waters few others dared navigate. Its diplomats often expanded influence through negotiation as effectively as armies could through war. Ironically, Carthage also helped create the empire that destroyed it. The Punic Wars forced Rome to build a navy, expand overseas, and think beyond the Italian peninsula. Without Carthage, Rome might never have become the dominant Mediterranean empire that shaped the next several centuries of Western history. For generations, however, Carthage remained known almost exclusively through Roman accounts. Victorious historians naturally celebrated Rome's triumph while portraying its rival through the eyes of the conqueror. Because Carthage's own libraries and records largely disappeared in 146 BC, its voice was almost completely lost. Only archaeology has begun to restore that voice. Excavations around modern Tunis have uncovered the remains of harbors, neighborhoods, workshops, temples, cemeteries, and defensive walls that reveal a civilization far more sophisticated than ancient propaganda often suggested. Each discovery paints a clearer picture of a society built not simply upon warfare, but upon commerce, innovation, diplomacy, engineering, and remarkable maritime skill. The story of Carthage reminds us that greatness takes many forms. Some civilizations are remembered for conquering continents. Others are remembered for connecting them. Carthage mastered the sea. It transformed trade into power, wealth into influence, and commerce into one of history's greatest civilizations. Yet even extraordinary success could not withstand an equally extraordinary rival determined to reshape the Mediterranean under a single authority. Today, the ruins overlooking the Gulf of Tunis stand quietly above the waters that once carried Carthaginian ships across the known world. Its fleets are gone. Its merchants have long since vanished. Its walls no longer command the sea. Yet its influence remains. Rome won the wars, but Carthage helped shape the world that followed. More than 2,000 years later, its story endures, not simply because of the way it fell, but because of the remarkable civilization it built. For while cities may burn and empires may disappear, the greatest civilizations leave behind ideas, achievements, and legacies that continue to echo long after their walls have turned to stone.